Yeah.
Survivor Specialist Phil and Alexa are back with our episode 12 recap. My winner pick, Gabi, is gone. Unfortunately, I'm going to sit here and cry. Originally, when this ended, I was very, very confused because I was trying to figure out how did Gabi end up with 2 votes. I figured it was going to be Allison who got 2 votes because Davi went to Christian and told Christian about what was going on. So that's what I figured was going to happen. But Davi was smart enough to realize he got the entire plan told to him. So he was smart enough to sit there and vote for Christian and know that Angelina and Mike were both going to vote for Gabi. So that's why Gabi goes home. But when that first came up as 2 votes, I went, "Wait, why is that happening? It's supposed to be Allison because Davi and Christian were supposed to do it." And it seemed like only Angelina was the one who was voting for Gabi.
Yeah, Angelina and Mike flipped this game on its head. And which of us or anybody would have guessed that they would have been the 2 to make this gigantic move this week? And we hear it really only happens for 1 second. Like you said, Angelina and Mike are like, wouldn't that be insane if we flipped it on Gabi? And Nick's like, okay. And then that actually happened. So you think Davi's going to be the one to blow it up because then he goes back to Christian with the plan. But it's really Angelina and Mike who kind of, I would say they pretty much went rogue on this. Would you?
No, I think that this was still they all knew Christian had an idol.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, we want to make sure Gabi gets the vote. It just seemed like they had only planned for one person to vote that way. It's much smarter to have 2 people do it because that ensures that whoever Christian votes for isn't in any danger. So that's I don't think that they were going rogue. It was confusing it was just confusing the way it was edited, which made you believe that Allison was going to go and Gabi was going to stay. Mm-hmm. But because they only told you that Angelina was doing it, because I think it was her idea. She said, "I'll just throw a vote at Gabi in case Christian plays the idol." And then Mike kind of laughed and said, "That would be amazing." And
that's it.
And that's it. It didn't seem like he was going to vote that way too. It is the only move that makes sense because otherwise Christian plays the idol and Allison does go home. But good on Davi to not give away that he was the one who told, because he stuck with the plan, knowing that had he voted for Allison, all it would have done is cause a 2-2 tie, which everybody would have revoted and voted out Gabi anyway, and then he would have looked really, really bad. So
yeah, that was really good on Davi. I didn't think about that. But I guess kind of like we were talking about it before we went live, if Angelina and Mike do vote Allison, and again, we haven't even seen the aftermath of this yet, but I feel like if Allison goes home or if Gabi goes home, the people who voted against them, it's a win-win for that because Allison is a self-aware big threat. Like everyone knows that she's a threat now. And I think everyone would argue that Allison was more of a threat than Gabi was, at least from what they were showing us. So I wonder, like what you said, why they voted Gabi over Allison, other than just wouldn't that be funny?
Because all Mike has been doing the entire game is talking about Goliath strong. And now the Goliaths are back on top 4-3. And if they try to take out Nick at all next week, Nick has an idol. Now, Christian is an obvious target next week. He's an obvious target anytime that he's available because the fire making's coming up, which means you can only vote him out up until final 5. So you need to vote him out in one of these next 3 votes. Now you have control. Now is the time to do it. But if they do decide, let's get rid of Nick instead, because maybe Christian wins immunity, well, Nick has his idol. He'll play it. And then I think that is when you see Allison go home. It makes the most sense for the edit, especially because the 6 others other than Allison have been really, really, really well edited. That group of 6 has been huge. And, I respect Gabi's game plan tonight. She went for it. She tried to make the move. She went out smiling because she was, you got me. She didn't
go out crying, people. She went out smiling.
Exactly. So she goes out that way. And I think that move. This is what everybody yelled at Laurel for last year, was that she didn't try to make the move to take out Wendell or Dom. Well, Gabi just tried to make the move and it failed, but she tried to make that move. So for all the Gabi haters out there, she went big. Like she said, I got to go big or I got to go home. And she did go big. She's never going to win the game sitting next to Christian, and nobody is. And I see what Davi's plan is, because he's trying to just keep more threats in front of him so that he can get to that final 4 fire making challenge to ensure himself sitting in final 3. But I don't know how much credit people are going to give Davi if Davi gets the final 4 or gets the final 3 and Christian's sitting there. I think Christian wins in a landslide, so he still has to get rid of Christian. Gabi just tried to make it happen sooner than later because she saw that this is the time now. I have the numbers. But, also it shows that Gabi and Christian weren't as tight with everyone else out there as they thought they were, because people were pretty willing to just say, okay, Gabi can be the next one, even though this was her idea to get rid of the biggest threat in the game.
Yeah, you're right. That did happen pretty instantaneously. And it was Christian who said, Gabi and I haven't spent more than an hour away from each other for the past month. And so not that I think that like they were isolated from everyone else, but I think the relationship that Christian and Gabi had to each other was just on a completely different level than their relationship with anybody else. And like you said, Gabi said herself, like, I got to go for this. I have to try. And she did. And she went out. She didn't cry. She said, sorry, Christian, I love you. It was freaking hilarious. She was really good the past few episodes. Everyone was complaining about her crying. Everyone cried this episode, myself included. And she put out, or Josh Wigler, I think, put out a really good article with her. And Phil and I were talking before the episode. Like, it's kind of weird. There've been a ton of those this season with active player interviews. And I'm not sure how I'd feel about them. But this one I was okay with because Gabi had the floor and could finally say what's probably been bugging her for like the past 2 months that this season's been on. All these people are ripping on her for being emotional. And if you read that article, everything she says is so right and so on point. I really recommend everyone gives it a shot. She really went out there. And like you said, Davi, I like Davi's idea, but there aren't many people left. And so you can't play the meat shield strategy for that much longer, especially when there's maybe even 3 of them now. Like Allison, Christian, and Nick, in no particular order, are probably bigger threats than Davi, at least from a viewer perspective, could be super different on the island. And getting rid of those 3 in a row is not going to happen.
Yeah, and then the other thing this week, it's funny because Davi's move is showing that he's trying to make his move later, and Gabi's move, you can make the argument that it was a week too early. Because if you could get rid of Allison this week, now you've got it down to 7. You have the numbers. You don't have to tell as many people anymore. Now Gabi could put herself in that swing position. I know Nick was really emotional, but Nick needs to get over it. I mean, that was just obnoxious tonight. I like Nick a lot, but that he was just being so hurt by this in a way that, like, dude, you've burned people all game. Like, let it happen. Davies burned people. Everybody's burned people. And don't act like Christian was your closest ally, because he wasn't.
As you strum a guitar 5 minutes later.
Yeah, exactly.
He said something that I wish I wrote down, but it was after he was actively talking to Christian, and I think he had a side confessional that was like, or he even maybe said to Christian, I need to get over this. I don't know why I'm so emotional. So at least he understood it, but like you said, he's been doing that all game. That is his game. And when he gets to if he gets to the end, that's got to be what he plays up. So if you're going to dish it, you got to be able to take it too.
Yeah, exactly. And he could not take it at all tonight. And I think it's interesting that he got that emotional, because now he was just complaining, we worked so hard to get the numbers and blah, blah, blah. And now he gives up the numbers. And then when they say, oh, we can't get rid of Christian, what does he do? He throws Gabi right under the bus. So he wasn't so he wasn't that worried about these numbers that he was preaching so hard Christian ruined. Like, he didn't care.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't care if Christian or Gabi went home.
Yeah, if he really wanted to make a stink, he would have turned to Davi and said, hey, let's throw 2 votes at Angelina just in case. That's what you do. Or 2 votes at Mike, or 2 votes at Allison, to make sure that Goliath goes home if it's not David. Or if it's not Christian. He could care less, but that's what his whole pitch was. I'm so hurt by this. And for anybody who thinks that Nick would beat Christian in the final, just look at the jury's reaction to everything Christian did tonight. I know that Nick is preaching that he has saved Christian twice, that all of this has happened, but what the jury is seeing tonight, that was a really great move. I mean, it showed him saving himself. Carl's turning around, Dan saying it, Alex saying it. Everybody's talking about how smart Christian is. And who's Gabi voting for now? She's voting for Christian. 100% if Christian's
he's got a guaranteed vote sitting on Jerry right now.
I would say right now he has 3 guaranteed votes from Dan, from John, and from Gabi if he gets there, because those are his brochachos. And then that's Gabi, who was his closest ally, who's going out with a smile on her face saying, dang, you got me. I really thought I had you this time, and I just couldn't pull it off.
Yeah. Christian's probably like, hell yeah, I just put her on Jerry. Like, he's probably amped about that. You mentioned Carl and Dan. I was like kind of in the aftermath of the vote. They were whispering at each other. Did it say what they were saying? I just saw them like really.
They were just saying how smart he was. It was Alex said he's freaking smart, and then Dan said something, and then Carl said, "Oh my god!" Like he couldn't believe. He was in shock over how smart this guy was. It was really good. And like you just said, he's so stoked to send Gabi over there. He sent Gabi over there not because he wanted to, and he didn't send her there, but she went home not because Christian wanted, because she tried to make the move and Christian got the better of her. So she's still going to vote for him because he didn't betray her. She betrayed him.
Exactly. Yeah, good point. Oh crap, I had something. Oh, yeah, the Christian assessing the group before playing that was awesome. Like that was super smart. That was kind of like a more intense version of when Joe played his idol in Heroes, Healers, Hustlers, and he looks and sees Ashley like tweaking out. He's like, oh, well, I should probably play this. And they probably edited it to look like this, but it was also probably accurate. He looks at Gabi, and Gabi's like not making eye contact, and I've never been on the show.
Double take.
Yeah, I've never been on the show, but if my closest ally can't make eye contact with me, I'm playing an idol.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was edited or if that was real because he was just staring at her and
Probably
she was kind of looking straight ahead. Then she looked over, looked straight ahead, and then she did a double take real quick. And it just felt so fake. But at the same time, Christian was just staring at her out of the corner of his eyes, which was really fun. It
was probably edited, but fairly accurate.
Yeah.
They probably just made it like a more exaggerated version.
Yeah. And I guess something that I also think was a problem with Gabi's game tonight, and I really do, and this isn't just because she was my winner pick or any of that. I really do think that Gabi deserves another chance to play this game if they're going to do some sort of season like that, because I think that she has a really aggressive style, and she could be the first or second person voted out the next time she plays. But I think that she's going to come to play to win every time, and she showed that tonight. And she made her move at Final 8, which is a pretty early time to get rid of your closest ally in Survivor. I mean, we saw how badly it worked out with the whole Zeke and David thing, right? So that was back in 33. That was at Final 10 or Final 9. That was still early, and we've seen how bad that can work out for people. But she tried to make this move, and I think she played a really good game. And my biggest complaint for her tonight was her being so vocal rooting for Nick in that immunity challenge.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
That was frustrating me on all accounts. And once again, this goes back to my whole Angelina thing. And look, Angelina is fun TV. I am so fine with Angelina making it to the finale like I think she's going to now. I'm so fine with her possibly sitting in the final 3. That is fine by me. I don't care. But this was another thing of just how everything she's doing just sort of feels phony. And in this moment, she said, well, Nick's is just really obvious. It's like, come on.
Come on.
Don't lie. And I hated that Gabi was also very vocal about trying to help Nick because you're kind of showing, wait, why are you helping Nick while Allison and Angelina are also helping Nick, who aren't in our alliance?
I'm so glad you brought that up. That was bonkers to me. And Allison, too. Allison and Christian were quote unquote in an alliance. And like Angelina, like you said, Angelina's just pandering to everybody shamelessly at this point. But for Allison and Gabi to be helping Nick, like, why would they do that? They just didn't vote with Nick. They just blindsided Nick. He's pissed at them. Why would they even do that? I haven't even seen Nick and Gabi speak, or Allison speak to each other once this whole season. And now they're like cheering him on. And then at one point you hear Allison like whisper to herself. She's like, I shouldn't say this, or I should keep quiet. She says something like that. And then when Christian does drop, they're like so awkward about it. At that moment, if I'm Christian, I'm like, I'm playing this idol no matter what. That was really absurd that they did that.
Well, and I loved when he said, am I doing all right, guys? You know, I thought that was great because you need to stand up for yourself in that position. And like I said, I don't fault Angelina because at this point, like you said, she's pandering everyone. When she went out there and actually hugged her mom and said, I got rice for the entire tribe.
Oh my God.
I was like, Angelina, like, I respect what you're doing here because you're just going all in on it. You are shameless as anything right now. But it feels so phony. It feels so forced. Like, Mom, aren't you so proud of the daughter you raised? Everybody, see how proud my mom is.
And
like,
everyone's like looking at their feet.
Yeah, it just comes across as so awkward right now. That's just the edit, but because of what we've seen, it just feels like Angelina's being phony a lot of the time. So by her voting for Nick, I don't have a problem with it, or rooting for Nick, because it's like, whatever, she's rooting for Nick. But for Gabi to be rooting for Nick and helping him, and Allison to be doing it, that rubs me the wrong way. It makes me feel funny, and I'm happy Kara won because I had actually written down Kara starts off so solid and then always falls apart. Because it looked like she was about to fall again because she's always so good and then out of nowhere she just drops. But
yeah, this was her challenge. This was one that's like,
there was no way she was losing.
Did not exist. Yeah. I'm glad, circling back to Gabi real quick, because I want to echo what you said about her getting a second chance. This tonight is probably the only, like what we just talked about, the cheering on Nick thing is the only true fault that I can think of in her entire game so far. And I want Gabi to play again for no other reason than to show everybody who says that she's an emotional player who just rode Christian's coattails the entire time. I want people to see that she can do this either on her own or in a different alliance, not with like some guy who comforts her, because I think she's a really strong player. And I think Christian wouldn't have been where he is if it weren't for Gabi. And I think Christian would very quickly say that too.
Absolutely. And it, who was it that said was it Will who said that every time that the family visit happens, that's when changes happen. And when she saw how Christian was with his girlfriend, she started to realize, wait, like, I'm not Christian's girlfriend. This is not real. Christian wants Christian to win. I want Gabi to win. And yeah, I hope, there's so many people who go out and they're scared to make the move. And that's the one thing for this entire cast, you could say from top to bottom, whether it be Davi playing his idol or Carl playing the nullifier or Gabi trying to make the move tonight, Angelina pandering to everybody, Mike White just saying Goliath strong over and over again, and somehow nobody caring. Everybody's come to play the game. And that's what you need when you have a returning season. Because, look, I liked Haley Ford. I thought she was fun. I thought she was going to be a better player the second time around. But she's the type of character where is she ever going to be in enough control to ever make the big move? And probably not. But Gabi showed that, yeah, she can get people on her side. And she did it tonight. She rallied the troops to vote out Christian. It's just that those troops also said, well, if we can't get Christian, let's get rid of his closest ally, who is no longer an ally.
Yeah. And like you said, she did it. Like Christian, yet again, would have gone home if it weren't for an idol. And the two people who voted for her, like, weren't really ever with her anyways. And Mike is the one who, we've kind of been saying this all along, but Mike actually said it tonight when he was talking to his boyfriend. He was like, everyone thinks I'm with them, but I'm kind of just floating around, which has worked for him.
Yeah. And I don't know if Mike will ever win, because by the time he sits there at the end, people are going to look at him and say, what did you do? And he's going to have a really hard time pointing to every single move he made. This one, he could say it was my idea to do this, but there's enough other people who sat there and I think heard Angelina say, let's just vote for Gabi, or whoever ended up saying it. So he's going to have a really hard time making a compelling argument at the end of the game. That Final Four they were talking about, I'm not buying that as the Final Four. And if that is the Final Four, that's a pretty bad Final Four.
Davi's not buying it either.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I even forgot that Davi was there. But yeah, that's not going to happen. I think that Mike and Nick could absolutely be there. And I wouldn't even be surprised if Allison somehow sneaks in, even though I think Allison's days are pretty numbered.
Yeah, her days are numbered.
She's been hanging on for a long time, and she still hasn't gotten that huge uptick that makes it seem like somebody who should go to the Final Three. But, when I sit here and I watch this, I'm not buying that that's the Final Four. I mean, on the other side of that, you have Christian, you have Kara, and you have who's the other person whose name I can't remember right now?
Allison.
Yeah, that's right. Allison wasn't even over there. That's right. My bad. I forgot. It was Angelina. I'm like putting Allison and Angelina.
God, sorry. Yeah, I'm mixing them up.
Yeah. So yeah, I just think that I think that there's too much on the other side. And now you're in a situation where you have Final Seven. If let's say Christian wins immunity next week and they do gun for Nick has to play his idol. Nick stays in the game. They probably get rid of Allison at that point, because I don't think Davi's that big of a threat. I think Davi's doing a good job Davi's playing one of the best under the radar games maybe ever, which is never going to be talked about because he's probably not going to win, but he's playing an incredible under the radar game. So I don't think that he's going to go home, despite the fact that he should be a huge jury threat. But I don't think he would go home next week. I'm starting to be convinced that Kara is going to make Final Three. And so then for the rest of it, Angelina, somebody who makes the finale but doesn't go home. I think it's got to be Allison if they gun for Nick and if Christian somehow is safe. So I just am not buying that that's going to be the Final Four, from that bunch.
Yeah, I mean, like, you texted me and you were like, this season's weird. This season is going to be really freaking weird if that's how it ends with those four. And it's nothing personal. It's just like you said, it's just content wise. And this is like the Ghost Island double tribal episode where it was like the final five were in one tribal council and the others were in another tribal council. And you could just kind of tell. And Davi made a really good point. Like you said, he's playing a great under the radar game. He blew up this entire Christian thing. He's pretty much the reason Christian is safe, and his name is not going. His name is nowhere. So good on him for that. And to his point, he's like, these three were on the Jabeni tribe together, and I wasn't a part of that. And I don't think they ever excluded him, but I think in the back of his mind, he's like, I don't have that much depth with them. The only thing I'm nervous about is I don't know who he goes to, because he can't really go to Christian because Christian would beat him. So I think he would kind of need a reevaluation with Nick. I don't know. What do you think?
He has to straddle this line. He has to figure out he needs to kind of go back and forth here, because he won't beat Christian, but he has to know that he will be the fourth person in that alliance of four, that he will be sitting there making fire at the end. And if they decide that he's the most expendable and they feel like they can beat Allison better than him or Kara better than him, they will take Kara or Allison to the final four over him. So I think he knows that. What I think really at this point, I don't think that Carol, or I don't think anybody wants to sit next to Christian, obviously. But I do think that people are going to start to realize Nick's a little bit of a threat, because, you know, I mean, we saw it in the preview for next week. Everybody's kind of going after everybody. But if Christian were to win immunity, which he's shown to be really good in these challenges, who do they end up voting for? They vote for Nick. That's who they're going to gun for. And if that's the case, all of a sudden Nick sits there and says to himself, wait, that group of four, if he was this hurt by Christian, he's going to be that hurt by his final four group too. And I think that you're still going to see Davi and Nick and Christian somehow be able to pull in a Kara, or maybe not an Allison at this point, but maybe Kara, and make something happen. Obviously, at this point, I really do think it's an Olympics to get to the end with Mike and Angelina, because I think if you sit there against the two of them, you win out of these this other bunch. So I think everybody's kind of fighting for that. It's just, who do you want to see even have a chance at a final four with you?
Yeah,
in that situation.
Because I think Nick has the best chance of going with those two, because he already has a relationship with them and they already have this final three, final four, whatever going on. I think he's got the easiest path to that with, I guess. So I guess that could be your final four now that we're talking out loud about it. But you bring up a good point with Karen Allison. I think Gabi was their in to Christian and that side. And now that she's gone, Christian and Allison have been wanting to get rid of each other. I think they like each other, but they both know the other one needs to go. So I don't see Christian and Allison making any attempts to save each other. And I think Allison is really handicapped by this now, because she loses, at this point, her closest ally. And I think she and Kara are tight, but the two of them together, I can't think of who else they connect with at this point.
You're talking Christian and Allison?
I'm talking Kara and Allison.
Oh, Kara and Allison. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Kara, see, and this is my whole argument as to why Kara's not going to win this game, even though a lot of people think she can. And I really like Kara. Kara's another one I wouldn't mind seeing play. This whole cast, anybody who wanted to come back, I just think Gabi's near the top of my list because of how hard she played. For somebody who could have fallen into the young girl, sides with the brain and sticks with him up until the very end and then loses, she really played an incredibly aggressive game for somebody who normally would fit into that role. But my argument as to why Kara can't win is just because we don't know her allies. She does not have a number one. Like, look how many people have come to Christian to save Christian this season. Over and over and over. Nick has done it. Davi has done it. Alec has done it. Everybody has done it. I mean, even John and Dan didn't want to vote for Christian when they had to vote for Christian. Carl has helped Christian in the past. Everybody has helped Christian. Who's going to go and help Kara? And that's the hard part. So if she sits in the final three, nobody feels such an allegiance to Kara to save her in the game. So why are they going to feel such an allegiance to vote for her at the end of this game? Who's
going to be the one to say, and you know how much I hate this, I forget what your stance is on this. Who's going to be the one to stand up and say, I am Kara's girl, I'm Kara's guy, I'm voting for her, everybody follow me? I don't think anyone's going to do that.
No. And I think you can say that about a couple of the people. I don't think anybody would do that for Angelina. I don't think anybody would do that for Mike. And I don't know if anybody would do that for Allison at this point. But I think Nick and Christian and Davi, I don't know who. I think Carl might be Davi's guy. I think that Carl could get up there and say, you guys got to vote for him. He saved Christian. He saved, he got rid of, whoever. And now, if I told Christian to play that idol, if he gets to the final three, you can say, I told Christian, you better play your idol because everybody's coming for you.
I think if Nick's on the jury, Nick could be that guy for Davi. I think if Angelina and Mike are on the jury, Angelina or Mike are on the jury, they would be each other's champion. Not that I think it would really get them anywhere, but I think that they have a bond that I think was implied, but we really saw that this week when she chose Mike to go on the family reward. But past those examples, Allison, because if it's Allison and Christian, Gabi's probably going to go for Christian. I think she's good. I think that's a no-brainer.
I think at this point you have that respect thing, and we've seen this happen before. We saw it happen with Adam and how everybody respected him when it got to the point where he was sitting there. And even last year, some people with Wendell or Dom, either way, I mean, both of those guys had burned you. It was just more of a respect thing. And I think at this point, Gabi sits down and says, you were my closest ally. When I tried to get you, you saved yourself. How did you do that? How could I not give you the $1 million right now? Like, you just played so much better of a game than I played. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's an automatic way to get that vote. Now, the hardest thing for Christian is getting there. But I just, when I look at this bunch that's left, you don't have anybody who Kara is the one who I have the hardest time figuring out who her closest ally is. But, I'm starting to realize a couple of the people here don't really have that number one.
Yeah. And I feel like this is a theory we've only really started pushing within the past couple seasons. But having that number one, having that best friend gets you a lot farther than I think everybody thinks.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. We just saw it tonight. Davi just went up to Christian and said it. And it's funny because we talked about Nick and Davi earlier in the season, how they were way closer than we expected them to be. Mm-hmm. Davi's way closer with these Davids than we expected. He's played a really nice game. And that's what I mean. He's really played one of the best under the radar games ever because he played an idol to save somebody, to save Christian. And still nobody looks at him as that big of a threat, yet everyone likes him. Everybody's saying, let's go to the Final Four with Davi. I like Davi. Davi's running around helping people out. He's playing a really good game of here's my shield. And it's funny that nobody's really looking at Davi as this huge threat, yet he really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. He stood up and made this whole thing about him saving Christian. And has anybody talked about him since? No. It's amazing. And this isn't even a part of why people vote for people anymore, but it's one of the things that I think if he's in the final tribal, he can speak to this. He's hugging his mom and he's like, Mom, I got an octopus. I've been providing for everyone. And everyone it's yeah, he did that. We all love him. That's not someone I want to go to the end with. That guy would wipe the floor with me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And seeing the way that they talk to their family members, I won't lie, this family visit, it didn't do it for me. I didn't really care.
Yeah. You brought this point up. I forget when, and I've always agreed and noticed with it since. When I love my family. When it's a family member versus someone you chose, a significant other, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, fiance, etc., it's very different.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything for me. I mean, Christian's girlfriend, the thing I liked is that Christian's just a goober. And then I loved how Kara's brother just walked out in slow motion, and Nick's dad is gigantic and Allison's mom is really short. So we came to the conclusion that Nick's mom is 4 feet tall and Allison's dad is 10 feet tall. What?
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
I mean, they didn't really look anything like them. There was such a disparity in height that it was insane. When Nick's dad picked Nick up, it was picking up a child. It was pretty
so
insane.
Cute. I know.
But this didn't really do it for me. But you can see the way they interacted with their loved ones, and it just there's a different level of sincerity there, and sometimes that leads a lot into who ends up winning the game. I mean, go back and look at Millennials or Gen X. I mean, that's one of the most emotional family visits, and the people who had a lot of the emotion were the big players. Even as far as Zeke, who went home, I think that episode still had a really big moment there, and that was because we saw Zeke a lot up till that point. And that episode was focusing around Zeke and David and how they were going to act. Mm-hmm. And David goes really far, and Adam goes on to win. And we didn't get much from Ken, and we didn't get much from Hannah. And I think that's kind of how this one was. There was a lot from Christian, and everybody kind of got their moment. But who felt like they were getting the most emotion out of it? That's a good way to kind of look for your winner. And I don't know.
Yeah.
But I didn't really love this. I didn't really love this family visit. It didn't do anything.
Yeah, I noted that too, and I'm glad you brought that up. Nick and Christian got the longest ones and kind of the most emotional ones. And we had talked about what Angelina had said earlier, and you look at people's reactions, people, and also I guess you can tell. I think Wendell put a big Instagram post about this today. People obviously talk about their family and they talk about who their family visit is going to be. So as a player, you see them get excited when someone else finally gets to see their mom or whoever. And Davi got a lot of love when his mom came out. Someone else did too. But like you see the reaction of the rest of the people with Davi versus Angelina, and you can tell it's just more sincere.
Mm-hmm. And even like Mike's boyfriend, I don't think that had as much of an effect on everybody. I don't think that everybody was as emotional, and because Mike's not that emotional of a guy. Like he's not like, yeah. And it reminds me of, I mean, if you go all the way back to fans versus favorites, James's family visit is one of my favorite things of all time. Because his dad comes walking out and James just goes, "Hey, Dad," and like that's it. That's
what
the
are
whole
you doing
thing
here.
That's the whole thing. It's amazing, and so that's kind of how I feel in this situation. This was probably one of the weaker ones, especially of late, because some of these have been really, really good. So you know, family visits are always fun. This one didn't really do it. Those pairings were funny. Brendan, I'm sure if he was watching tonight, is having a heart attack. Poor guy's going through PTSD, watching them try to land the balls on that thing.
Yeah,
I did like that everybody had to land one. That was smart. I thought that was a better move, and this way you can't just rely on one person being good. Although when you look at that final 8, it didn't really click in my head until tonight. As a weak final 8, there's really and I'm not saying that they're bad at these challenges because
it's an endurance final 8.
Yeah,
how about that?
There is no strength when they're running and swimming and all that. There is no strength to anybody out there, and it's really, really funny.
Yeah, I was watching and also for any of the final 8 who's listening, we think you're all wonderful. But I'm looking at these pairings, and as they were like doing that shot, which is probably much more difficult than it looks because it's on such a tight beam and you're coming from a really awkward angle. I'm watching that and I'm like, I guess this is Allison and Kara's to lose, but they're both really good in challenges, but they're both excellent at a very specific type of challenge. Versus like you throw John and Dan in there and it's a little different. And obviously we see Allison and Kara do very well in the challenge that they would obviously crush.
Yeah, and it was funny because when they zoomed out, they were coming across, and you see Gabi and Christian first. I was like, well, they have no chance of winning. And then I looked at the rest of the pairs, and I said, okay, anybody can win. It doesn't matter. Like normally, Gabi and Christian would be so far behind, but that didn't happen. I still wish they would have brought back the log so that everybody could Adam Klein it and just be stuck the wrong way, screaming at the top.
Save me! Yeah, I guess I keep saying Allison. Gabi and Christian could have won it if it was a puzzle. So like all these people are good at certain types of challenges, but I guess not the one that was happening tonight.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So, all right, what else in this immunity challenge was okay. I mean, you know, you're just stepping back and holding the phone. You're holding the thing on your hand. It was very okay. I would never win any of these. I have no balance. I would have fallen off over them. So
yeah, that was a tough one. And you see like. It almost looks like he's faking it. Like Christian's hand is just wiggling, but that is just like your muscle just doesn't even know what to do anymore. How long were they at? Like 45 minutes to Kara last? Like it wasn't too long.
Half hour ish. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty quick one. The tough part is the stepping backwards. But yeah, that one was okay. Crazily enough, I would have preferred the one where you just got to leave your hand up the whole time. But I know that's not as stimulating as a viewer. You want to make them like move back and forth. But yeah, this was one that I figured Christian, Kara, or Allison was going to win. Or Gabi, because I remember Gabi said this after she dropped after like 3 hours last week when she was like, these are the kind of challenges that I can win. Like I have to do well in these because these are the only opportunities I have, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So what else even happened here? It wasn't that crazy of an episode. Because it was all building to Christian going. It was either going to be it was Gabi voting for Christian, and because Christian didn't win immunity, there was no change to this. It just stayed the same the entire time, which I thought was interesting because a lot of times normally some other name will get thrown out there, and tonight there was no other name until Gabi's name just got thrown in at the end. But normally it'll be Christian decided let's go for this, and it was Allison's name who got brought. I never had the feeling that anybody could ever switch the numbers. And that was definitely Christian just trying to play it up for the cameras because he knew he was going to play it the entire time. He had to play it the entire time.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Davi probably told him to.
Yeah. So actually, that was a question I was going to ask, and I forgot about it. So, did Davi give a specific reason why he went to Christian? Because I feel like he had some confessional where he was like, "I got to make this my move," or "I got to get involved," or did he just go to Christian because they're tight? What do you think?
No, he did it because he needs a shield. That's what he said.
Oh, that
So
was it. He needs a shield,
if
right?
he gets rid of Christian, there's nobody to protect him anymore, which is smart. But there's at least two huge threats left in the game, and I would make the argument that Kara is probably a bigger threat than a lot of these people think. So I think that he still has threats out there who can beat him with Nick, with Kara, and now with Christian. I don't know if you necessarily need to save Christian, but I respect what he's doing because this does make him look good. Mm-hmm. This still makes, he can still go in and say, I'm the reason that Christian played his idol that night. That was me.
Yeah.
I'm the reason Gabi's sitting over there. Gabi, don't vote for Christian, vote for me or whoever. He can kind of make these arguments, and he still has the argument of, I played an idol that saved Christian. Christian goes home if I don't play that idol for him. So if anybody has a case to beat Christian, I think it's Davi, but I think he's really the only one. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny that he's trying to keep Christian in as a shield, even though in reality he should be a bigger threat than Christian because he saved Christian, and without him, Christian's gone.
Yeah, so let's talk this through. If you're sitting on the jury and Davi and Nick and Christian are your final three, would be absurd, but would be awesome. And Davi and Nick stand up and they're like, we saved Christian a combined 3 times. He would not be here even remotely if it weren't for us. They say that. But then Christian stands up and he says, you people liked me so much that you kept me in the game 3 times when you could have gotten rid of me. Like, both of those are super compelling. I don't know which way I'm supposed to go on that as a voter.
I think that you probably go with Christian because I think everybody likes Christian more. Mm-hmm. And I think that everybody says, why would you keep around the biggest threat in the game? That's your problem. You did this. Like, yeah, you have. And look, it depends on what Davi's relationship is like with everybody. But if Davi is even saying that Christian is the shield, then clearly Davi knows that Christian is the biggest threat. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, when I look at this, I think you probably go with Christian because it's like, stupid move on all your part. Why did you keep him around? You should have gotten rid of him. Like, that's on you. That's not on me. I don't care. Yeah. So I think that all of them, though, have really, really good speeches. They all have a really good idea. And I'm curious to see, what because I don't see, I'm hoping that 2 of these 3 make it, or Kara and Nick make it, or Kara and Christian make it, or, something like that. Because Allison just hasn't gotten the edit to win. Angelina, I don't see winning. I don't think Mike's going to pull it out. So I don't want it to be a Nick, Mike, Angelina, Christian, Mike, Angelina, Davi, Mike, Angelina. I don't really want that, despite the fact that, hey, maybe they do pull it off and I'm shocked sitting here, and that's fine with me. I'd rather be shocked. I mean, that's also probably the reason why. That's the reason why I think the Michelle victory is so cool, is because you never see that coming. Mm-hmm. It's insane. So that's where I come from with this. I sit there and I say, okay, I don't want that, though, because I'm scared that it's just going to be super predictable. So what is my dream final 3 right now? I want to see one of these guys who saved Christian have to go up against Christian and explain to the jury why it was smart of them to save Christian. Why that was a good idea. Yeah,
I think, and obviously, I think this is going to be a really good finish. I think it's going to end really well because it's a fun final 7. And I hate to talk about the edit, but I think, like you said, we're kind of at the point where it could be an extremely predictable final 3, unless it's like what you just said, some form of Christian, Nick, and Davi. And as much as Allison, as much as I can tout that Allison can win, you're right. There just isn't, the content just isn't there. And I think Allison could make the final 3 and kind of be your Sabrina in one world, where it's the final 3 and you're like, wait a second, Sabrina actually may pull this out, and then she doesn't even remotely do that. I feel like that's what Allison could play, because on paper she can win, she's winning, but put her up against Nick, Davi, or Christian, and I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. So it'll be interesting to see where these people I'm assuming Christian's going to somehow pull out next week, immunity or something, because with the finale only 2 weeks away, he's got to be in the finale with how big of an edit he's gotten. So I think that he's going to somehow pull it out, but I'm curious to see who goes in his place next week. And I would love a finale that doesn't have idols, but I doubt that that's going to happen. But I would love a finale that only has a final 6, a final 5, and then the fire making challenge. But we know that they'll hide stuff, and now that so many people have found idols, they'll know where to look. So
Yeah, I was gonna say there because now Nick still has an idol, so there'll probably be still like 1 to 2 idols floating around until the end. If like
Yeah, I'm curious if they're going to rehide one. I don't think they will, but it's curious.
They probably will. How far did like the final 5 is when you can play your last idol. So yeah, there's probably gonna be idols floating around still. But I think you're right. Like if Nick or Davi or Allison goes next week, I think that would make this finale fairly predictable because though Nick, Davi, Christian, and then like take a step, Allison are probably like who I realistically think could win. So like if Kara or Angelina or Mike goes next week, then it makes it a little more interesting because the group gets a little bit tighter.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think that one of them will go. And I'm kind of on the belief now that Angelina is going to be in the final 3, and I think she might get it handed to her at final 3 because
get the win or get
I mean like get it handed. Like
we haven't had a good jury beating in a while.
I think that she might be the because what's happened with these new juries is instead of Troy Zane getting a jury beating, all Troy Zane gets is nothing.
Silence. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets nothing. So I think that that's something that you might end up seeing here is Angelina get a little bit of a beatdown against whoever she's against because it's gonna be like you said this and you did this. But that doesn't mean that you should win Survivor. That doesn't mean that you should do this. And Angelina is obviously very confident in herself and she's very sure of herself. But I think that she might get a little bit of a wake-up call as to how some of these people viewed her and who would lead that charge. That I would say Dan would lead 100%. So I definitely could see that happening. And now that you're at final 7, it seems like why wouldn't Angelina make final 3, especially since the Goliaths have the numbers. You still have Christian and Nick in the game who are huge threats. You have Davi in the game who's a huge threat. Why would you not make sure Angelina is one of the people sitting with you at the final 3? So, I've been putting her at the bottom over and over and over again, but I think this time we're putting her up number 1 or 2 in my next week's power rankings because I don't see her going home at all.
Yeah. I mean, at the beginning of every finale when Jeff like gives the whole 10-minute montage of like who's left and what they're still fighting for. And it was super awkward when Angela was in it last year and Jeff had like nothing to say about her. Like with Christian and Angelina, I already know what Jeff is saying about them in there. Like it's already written because they just have to be in it because Christian is the face of the season and Angelina, love her or hate her, she has been a very, very present part of the season. She's been great TV, like you said, and she's been shamelessly clawing at it and in a way that we haven't seen in a while. And she's probably going to get absolutely demolished in Final Tribal. But I mean, I already see this title card being formed.
Yeah, it's the whole Christians will be. He's been a target since day 1. He's brilliant, and he did this, and can he?
He's funny.
Shed one more skin to prove that he can win, and then Angelina's will be, whatever she did back, she could have went home all the way back during Jacket Gate or something, and but she's been manipulating her way through the game, and it'll be a clip of her negotiating the rice and or they might even say negotiating her way through the game with the rice, and then talking to her mom about what she did and all of that. And it'll be, but can she negotiate her way into the final 3? Like you can already hear those.
You literally just wrote that. That was great.
And I'm having a hard time figuring out what Allison's might be or what Allison's actually could go all the way back to day 1 where she underestimated the Davids and now she's had to side with them and outlast some of them. But the Mike's I can kind of see because he's the Hollywood filmmaker who went in rough state. But what's Kara's? Kara's a little bit tougher. What's hers? What's Davi's right now? He's been killing octopus and stuff, but I think you're right. The Angelina and Christian one are the most obvious ones because even Nick's day 1 threat should have went home, but then an accident sent somebody else packing, and since then Nick has regained his life in the game. That's that's an easy one too. So I think those 3 are definitely going to be there. It's just what person is not going to join them in the finale.
Yeah, I can think of Davies, but you're right. Kara's, I can't really think of one. Mike, yeah, other than like the whole Hollywood thing, I don't really know what they have there. And honestly, with Allison, like she's got the whole like Wonder Woman doctor, everyone loves her thing going on. But like now I'm just thinking of like copywriting. But those 3 are kind of the big ones.
Yeah. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But is there anything we haven't covered from this episode, or have we pretty much covered it?
I think we covered it all. The thing that the family thing takes up like 25 minutes of the episode, so that always spoils a bunch. I hate this, but who do you think is MVP, LVP?
Well, I think MVP has to be Christian because he played the idol.
Yeah.
He played the idol the right way. He's still in the game. Yes, he loses Gabi, but Gabi was gunning for him, so who cares? He still clearly has Davi very much on his side, and nobody knows it because Davi still voted for Christian, so I think that's good. I think that there's a lot working in his favor. I would say LVP. I think LVP's got to be Nick this week. I think he was just
He was very emotional.
Yeah, and I know he does win the challenge with Angelina, so he gets that, and he gets to go on the reward, and why they had to be on a pontoon, that just feels like it would make you sick because you're just standing on water and it's really small and you're just floating. But I think that he was very, very emotional, and he let his emotions get the best of him right now. So I don't think he played very smart this week, and he put his emotions on his sleeve, and he acted like, yeah, me and Christian, we rekindled our relationship. But now Christian knows you just lied straight to his face, and Christian's apology is much more sincere than his apology was, because Christian also went to him that night and said, this is why I did this. This is why I got rid of Carl. And Nick didn't want to hear it. And then Nick comes and lies straight to Christian's face as Christian's trying to say to him, obviously to save face, but as Christian's trying to say to him, look, man, I'm sorry that this happened, and this is why I did it, and I want to be friends with you. Now he can see right through Nick. And Nick has the idol, so Nick will hang around. But, Christian can now kind of use that as leverage to be like, guys, let's worry about him. And now Christian knows he has to win immunity from here on out. Otherwise, he's not making it.
That's a really good point. People can call Gabi emotional all she wants, but every vote she made was strategic. Nick was very mad at Christian, and really, those two need to be together. They can't keep button heads because they kind of need each other, as we've spoken ad nauseum at this point. But I think Nick could get LVP. The only other person I could think of is Allison, because she lost kind of her closest ally, I guess.
She's still not doing much. How has Allison?
She's voted for Christian 5 times, and it's never.
I know. Allison is in the game longer than Gabi, which I would have never expected.
Yeah, who would have guessed that one? I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, Nick or Allison. If people still vote for it, I don't know, but yeah, I could see that. I don't know. Allison's definitely on my team. Nick's on Vaughn's team. Yeah, screw Vaughn.
Nick's on Vaughn's team. Yeah. So Vaughn's up on us by 50 points, up on you by 50 points. I'm just happy I beat Bradley. I only have Christian left, so I don't care. I'm just happy that
Bradley's out now. Well, Christian's going to last a while. Well, there's not much longer.
Next week.
There really isn't
he
much
can
longer.
go home next week too. So Vaughn has pretty much wrapped that up anyway, so it really doesn't even matter now.
Yeah, it's the sun rises and sets.
Yeah, exactly. So congrats to Vaughn. You win again.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all I have here. I don't know. That's really all I got.
I know. Yeah, this was a pretty quick. Shout out to the patrons, Nasher Splasher. Very weird name. This was a kind of like you said, it was a pretty straightforward episode because half of it is dedicated to the family visit, and then the other half is dedicated to Christian going home, which was only a 5% chance of actually happening.
Yeah, exactly. And so shout out to the patrons, and just keep remembering that if you're $20, there's something really cool that's either going to happen in December or January. We haven't decided which one yet, but it's going to be really cool.
Very, very cool. Become a $20 patron if you aren't already.
Yep.
And if you're a lesser paying less patron, not that anyone is lesser than anybody, definitely put in $20. This is going to be super cool. Phil and I obviously Phil's been working on it. It's going to be super cool. So yeah, definitely sign up for that. I know we'll probably get more of a rush when we actually can tell you what it is, but it's going to be awesome. But in the meantime, become a $20 patron. We're going to do, along with this super secret, awesome, gift that comes with being $20 patron. We're also going to, involve you guys in our Power Rankings game, which will be super fun. Be a $1 patron, join our Facebook group. It's been pretty active. We should probably post in it. I feel like I've been neglecting it a little bit. You pay $5 and you get to be a part of our Q&A podcast. You can submit us questions. We will do it once a month. We'll probably end up doing it probably sooner rather than later, since we're about to enter a pretty busy time with the holidays and everything. And if you want to be a $10 patron, we'll do a Survivor retrospective on top of those two things. We're still working out the idea for this season. So for this month. So if you guys have any Any ideas? Shoot us a note. I actually just got an email from Gmail right now that said Nathaniel Asher just edited their pledge from $10 to $20. So hell yeah, Nathaniel, that was super cool. If you guys keep doing that while we're live, I will give you shout outs. My phones are in front of me. So yeah, if you want to be a patron, go to patreon.com/Survivor Specialist. We have a ton of cool tiers, a ton of cool options. Any and all of them are great, especially the $20 option. We'll be back sometime this weekend with our episode 12 or 13. I always mess it up after we do.
It's 13. They only called
13.
it episode 10 on CBS, so I'm only calling it episode 10.
Okay, so next week is episode 13.
Oh wait,
no, next week's episode 12. Oh,
next
I
put
episode
12.
Yeah, I put 12 on
this one 12.
I messed that up. Okay, next week will be episode 12. We'll edit the title for this one. Episode 12, predictions and power rankings. And then we're done. We have 2 more episodes after this. We are barreling headfirst towards this finale. And we're really excited to see how it ends. It is not going to be predictable, even though Phil and I were just maybe talking about that. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, shoot us 5 stars on iTunes, and keep hitting that subscribe button. We got after we mentioned hitting 4,000 subscribers, we are still climbing. So let's get it to 5,000. That's a really cool, pretty number. But we'll be back this weekend. Make sure to become a patron of the Survivor Specialists.
Yep. Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.